Farenhight 451 is the story of a futuristic society where books are banned and houses, buildings, belongings have become fireproof. So that leads firefighters to no longer put out fires, but to start fires by burning books and even people's houses. They get caught with books. Farenhight starts off with the character Guy Montag being the main character. He's married to a wife who loves her video walls, which is what they have for entertainment in this society. Video walls are pretty much just gigantic TVs that are the size of walls. Matter of fact, they replace walls in some houses. During Guy's job, daily routine is to go around where they've had a report of books being hidden in a house or someone in possession of them. They go find the book. They try to get the person to confess. And if they do, all they do is sit up and they burn the book. If they don't confess and they have to do a search of the house to turn up the book, they turn them up, they can actually burn a person's house, which is kind of different from what I did as a firefighter and my brothers and sisters did. Whereas we go in and we try to put out fires. But Guy's kind of conflicted after he runs a fire where an old lady refuses to give up her books, and she has hundreds of books. They pull her out of the house and they're going to burn the house down. Where she decides that she doesn't want to live like that anymore, so she runs back into the house and dies. This kind of sets Montag off, in which he had stolen a book from the lady's house and kept it to read later. He wanted to see what she decided to give up her life for. To go on the reason that they banned books, every writers had decided to not to try to offend anyone anymore, so they started writing bland books that all sounded the same, read the same. Nobody was reading the same thing because they didn't want to offend minorities or a minority of people who would complain about the books to get them banned. They didn't like something, they didn't like a line, they didn't like a word, something, the way something was written. So they went and society just decided to ban books. So they went off with the TV. Later on, after Guy tries to read the book, tries to understand it, he goes through. There's another thing that sets Guy off. Also, he befriends a neighbor's niece who is later killed in a car accident. She's killed crossing the road because, as a society, you drive fast is the rule. So she dies, and after he misses talking to her about books and other things, he decides he wants to try to change the world, try to get back into books, try to bring them back, get them unbanned and everything. So he goes and talks to a professor that he had met in a park one day, Professor Farber, who had been an English teacher once before. And he tries to get Professor Farber to help him understand what he's reading. He has a book of poetry and some other books that he's taken from either the fire department where they've used them in training, or people's houses that they're going to burn the books or the house. So he talks to the professor, and they decide that yes, they want to try to change the status quo and get bring back books, bring back the intellectual, people talking to each other instead of just watching TVs and other things. So they go off and make these plans. Well, meanwhile, back at guy's house, his fire chief comes by after his wife calls and tells him that he has a book, because Montague has shared with his wife his newfound love of books, and she is kind of she's kind of upset that he's brought in books. He's risking their life. She doesn't like books. She likes the video walls. He's discussed books in front of her friends, which she doesn't like. They don't like. So calls in the fire chief. He comes and talks to Montague and gives him 24 hours to think it over. If you want to continue on, come back to the station in 24 hours and all will be forgiven. You'll be okay. So he goes and he talks to the chief after the 24 hours, and the chief they talk about books, and the chief gives him this thing about how books were bad and everything, and about he had once loved reading books, but then he got they got to where they were ruinous for society and everything. They're always offending people, such as that. So at the end of their conversation, he's asking Montague to make a choice to be a firefighter and to uphold his duty, or he can go on and become a criminal. So at that time, they run a call, as they do in that society, to a house, and unbeknownst to Guy, it's a call to his house. So they go in, and the chief orders Guy to burn his own house down as penance for his crimes. Guy refuses to do it and gets into a fight with the chief inside the house. Guy kills the chief, and then after another struggle with a robotic dog, he escapes. He finds the professor, and they flee to the woods close by. Whereas meanwhile, a huge televised chase is on for him, where they're going on. They're trying to, he's become public enemy number one, and they're trying to kill him. So they go to an area, an encampment of people who have decided to protect books by memorizing them word for word. A person reads a book, and then to protect it fully, they decide to burn it, which is kind of an ironic for Guy to come in from being one who burns books to being one who now and wants to, he burns books. He wants to protect them, wants to save books for all mankind. So what he's doing, he's joining a group that they memorize a book and then they burn it. So it's kind of an irony there, which Montague wanted to start back printing books and having them available, giving them out to people. He'd even talked about taking books and planting them in firefighters' homes to kind of make them look, kind of like a hypocrisy. They've got books, but yet they go out and burn other people's, books for, they can have them, but other people can't. So he gets on. So while they're being hunted, they go through while they're in the wilderness with the other people that are memorizing the books and then burning them to save them. They actually bomb the city to quell the disturbance. And look, and the book ends with them going through and taking survivors and vowing to save the books and save society, save everyone. It's a really great book. I first watched the movie when I was young, And this is a time when I was interested in becoming a firefighter, which I later did in life. The movie kind of was something for me, in which I then went and checked the book out at the library. Which, by the way, I picked this spot because I'm across the street from an old fire station in the city of Carswell, and also a spot where we have a local lending library, free library, where you can bring books and leave a book. You can take a book to read, whatever. One of those is popping up all over the country, which is a great idea. I've dropped off several books because it's right across the street from my house. But it does get me. There's a lot of symbolism in this book. A lot from the author Kurt Vonnegut's experiences when he was a soldier in World War II. And the thing that gets me is it's kind of becoming true now. No one actually picks up a real book anymore, paper, like a regular book that you can hold in your hand. If anything, it's all about TVs. The bigger the better. All the Netflix, all the video channels, all the movie channels, everything. And if we're going to read a book, it's going to be an e-book. It's going to be a book on a tablet or an iPad or whatever. And I guess I'm old-fashioned, old. I can't stand to read a book on an e-reader, as people call them. I prefer the physical book. I prefer to be able to hold the book. That's just one of my joys in life. But Vonnegut saw from experiences, like I said, in World War II to the early 50s, early to mid 50s, when he wrote this book. And when it came out in 53, Vonnegut saw the Hollywood blacklist of the communists, supposed communists in Hollywood and New York City, of the writers. He saw editors as picking and choosing what they wanted in books. They were highly editing, what writers wrote. If you were anything deemed bad was kind of taken out, and kind of to have the utopian society. You didn't want to anger anyone. You didn't want to get to. It's kind of like a lot of people would object to the use of the N-word and other stuff in Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn. Talking about Jim. It's one of those. A lot of people object to a lot of things in books, and people go through stupid things to ban books. Books are not there to offend you. They're there to make you think. Even if you don't like the book, if it makes you think, it's done its job. And I think we're getting away from books, because it's coming up again. Well, we don't like this book because it has religious overtones in it. Well, we don't like this book because it uses words we don't like. Books are there. Books are important. We look at books that offend, and when we look at the number one selling book of all time, it is, it's Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler, and he offended pretty much everyone. So, and that's kind of what Kurt Vonnegut was looking at. He saw that coming kind of full circle, what he went to Europe to fight in World War II when he fought the Nazis. He had some bad experiences. He was in the Battle of the Bulge. He saw firsthand what Nazis did to the press and to books and to anything they didn't like. He saw the same thing happening in the United States, in America, and he was one of the few writers and authors, editors who tried to fight it. And he did face some pushback from the others, but it did kind of get his main point across. It was kind of like when he wrote Slaughterhouse-Five. It was kind of the same thing. And when other writers wrote Animal 1984 and another thing, it was all about government. At that time, government was closing in and becoming what they thought overpowered. And that was kind of the point of Fahrenheit 451. People were getting away from books. It was all about the new medium of TV, movies. It was all getting away. People weren't reading anymore. I first got interested in reading by reading comic books, like a lot of kids do, and that got me into reading other books. I couldn't imagine a world without having books. That's one of my favorite things is to read. I mean, and I couldn't imagine just sitting around and watching a giant video screen all day long. No matter how fun that may seem. Now, a wall-sized TV might be great for the Super Bowl, but other than that, it's just not something I would look forward to. A world without books, leads to a lot of soulless, brain-dead people to me, and that's one of the reasons that I like Fahrenheit 451. Until I was in my 20s and read the book again, I never realized that that's what it was that's what it was getting at, was that they were trying to ban the books for to kind of control people and to not offend and everything. I mean, if you're going to get offended, fine, but don't ruin it for other people who don't get offended. Like I said, that was what he was getting at when he wrote Fahrenheit 451. So that's why I said there's a lot of symbolism in it. A lot of stuff. You look at the way he describes the uniforms of the firefighters and of the military and the police, just like SS uniforms of the Nazis in World War II. A lot of the government, with the burning of the books, Nazis, they burned the books. So that's why I say he took a lot of his experience from Europe during the war and put it in this book to say, hey, government, you're becoming kind of oppressive. You're kind of, taking in our rights and ending them. It's kind of taking away, you're taking away our freedom of speech and freedom of expression, which are two of the most important things in the Constitution to me, besides the Second Amendment. The First Amendment is number one, and the Second Amendment is, helps protect the First Amendment to me. But I'm going to end this here. This has been my essay for Fahrenheit 451. My name is Jeff Blaylock. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.